Star Wars, the Black Series, figure number 5, Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is awarded a medal for his part in destroying the Death Star.
Welcome back to eBEFOREi Video Reviews. Today I'm taking a look at my very first channel Star Wars video. This is reviewing Star Wars The Black Series, the 4-inch or 3.75-inch figure, number 5, Luke Skywalker. Because everybody likes Luke, until he starts acting like a whiny baby all the time. But anyway, so this is very cool. This is part of the brand new kind of relaunch series of collector-type toys for Star Wars fans. And since Hasbro has been producing Star Wars figures for a long time now, they've kind of had some ups and downs over the years. The ups is that they've had some really neat, fully articulated figures that looked pretty good. The downs are, well, they've had some figures that have not been so well articulated and looked kind of crappy. Anyway, as we're here to talk about this Luke figure, let's take a quick look at the box, then we'll open him up and see if this figure is worth your time and money. So unlike the larger 6-inch figures from the Black Series, what you don't have is that kind of really cool matte feel to the box. It's just a regular box. Doesn't feel any different in your hands, although I do like the kind of high gloss that they use here on the Star Wars logo that you don't have underneath it. So that's kind of cool. You can see it right there in the lights. You have a very neat, almost like a comic-style picture of Luke Skywalker, which is pretty neat. He's figure number 5 in the Black Series. Interesting orange on black contrast, which is kind of cool. Ages 4+, which I think is higher on the larger figures. Choking hazard, so don't put Luke's stuff in your mouth. On the back of the box, you have a very kind of minimal artistic view of the closing scene of Star Wars A New Hope, where Luke is getting his medal, which is what this figure's all about. It's a bio that we already read. Interesting enough, they feel the need to tell you that some poses may require additional support. I say it's interesting because nowhere on this box do they show him in alternative poses. So I'm not sure what that reference is all about. He's made in China, in case anyone's wondering. I want you to go to StarWars.com. Here's your proof of purchase. So if anyone says, you didn't purchase this, you can say, well, no, here's my proof of purchase. And there is a number that's sort of embossed in the box itself. This one is 31401. I don't know if all the Lukes have this, so we'll have to see as we do more of these figures. So that's the box review. Let's go ahead and get him opened up. So yeah, here's Luke out of the box, and you can see after he won his medal, he took out his lightsaber and he whipped out his gun, and he had some bad intentions, I have to say. I think he did. So yeah, here he is out of the box, and I have mixed opinions on this figure so far. Not terrible, but let's get into it, and we'll show you some detail up close. The head sculpt looks real nice. I mean, it does resemble Mark Hamill. It looks like Luke Skywalker. My nitpick, I guess, would be with the fact that the underside of his hair is not colored in. So when you're looking at him from the front on, and I don't know if my camera and lights pick up on this well, but there's a bit of a mismatch in color, and it's almost like, he wanted to get some highlights from a boy band, and he didn't pay enough money to get it done correctly. I don't know. So there's that. The eyes are really cool. You can see that they are painted blue. So he's got that kind of steel Skywalker stare. It's pretty nice. White detail with the blue on top again, which looks great. The hair color overall looks good for the toy. It kind of has that dark yellow that he got perhaps later in the series. So a very, very nice look to the hair. Skin tones look natural, no problem with that. The head's on a ball joint, although you don't get a lot of movement on it, perhaps because of the hair. And you can see that this is on one giant piece right here. And so you get some movement, but if you want Luke to look up in the sky, it's not going to happen real easily. But you do get the side-to-side movement and some up and down, just not as much as perhaps there could have been. Now, I do have some issues with the arms. The arms are real nicely articulated, but look at the way that joint sits in here. It's just this swivel right here. And so when you lift the arm up like this, it almost looks like it's weirdly disjointed from his body. And that's just kind of a bizarre look, and it almost has like this spring-like action, at least at first it did, just because of the way the plastic rubbed up against it, to where this looks all kinds of wrong, especially if you had his coat off, which we'll get into here in a minute. The shoulder joint itself is on a swivel. The elbow's on a swivel. He's got a joint in on the elbow, and the wrist does move, so there's a lot of movement in the arms overall. The waist, you get a little bit of up and down, not by design, but just because, there's just a swivel there, and if you keep going with that, it's going to break in half. But he does have waist articulation. In the legs, this is perhaps one of my biggest problems. Inside the hips, there is no movement to spread these apart. You can only go up and down. So that limits what you can do with posability. There's a little bit of natural move over to the side when you lift his leg up. You do see that he's got a knee hinge, and oddly enough, on these collector type figures that they really have been kind of promoting as, things that are highly posable, there's no foot articulation. That foot's molded in place, just a solid piece of plastic. So, a little bit disappointed with that. Nice color detail. You can see the yellow kind of pinstripes in the legs. I believe that's movie accurate. The boots themselves, the brown pants. It's got a belt buckle. That does seem to be an independent part that's kind of wrapped around his waist. It comes around here and then wraps around his leg like it would have in the movie, so that's a neat look, and you can holster his gun in here. The coat is made out of this real soft plastic, so I think I could probably get that off, but not in a way that would make me think I wouldn't rip this thing apart. So you can see it's nicely detailed. He's got that kind of Jedi look, the dark thing with the collars, and it would be buttoned down right there. So a neat look to it, and it looks like it wants to come off, but I feel like if I were to take this off, this would rip somewhere in here. So yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. If you want to take the metal off, just behead Luke. Take the metal off, pop the head back on, and now you have Luke with no metal around his neck. I think I quite prefer it that way. If you were to take his coat off, again, you can see how even more odd that shoulder joint would be, because when you lift his arm up, the joint just kind of sinks below where his shoulder would be. I don't know if the camera picks up on that, but it's just a weird look. Doing the 360 all the way around, you can just see that, again, he's detailed very nice. I just wish that he had a bit more posability. But as is, for a smaller scale figure that's on your shelf, this does seem to be a pretty nice representation of the early in the series Luke Skywalker. The metal itself, you can see they had nice intentions, but it didn't really mold too well. I mean, I get what they were doing, but it looks kind of sloppy as is. Now, he does also come with his pistol, and that looks movie accurate, so that's pretty nice. And he can holster that in his side holster, which we'll do in a few minutes. He also comes with a lightsaber that has not been ignited, so that's pretty neat, and that's actually detailed very nicely. It's silver paint all the way around it, so it's not just left unpainted, and it's got the little hole on the tip, which tells you that they could, make that look like, yeah, something's going to come out of this and slice you in half. Nice handle grips, and so, yeah, overall, that looks pretty good. And then he comes with his blue lightsaber that has indeed been extended. Now, the one thing I'll say about this is that Hasbro has this habit of releasing these real flimsy lightsabers that out of the box end up being kind of warped. This one looks good overall. It's got a little bend to it, but, at first glance, it looks fine. Now, the nice thing about it is it looks like this is the same exact piece, albeit they're not identical. But when they made the mold, they actually took detail to make these look as close as possible on the handles so that you can, pose them up extended and sometimes not extended. And it doesn't look like you're putting different things on them for accessories. So that's kind of nice. Real quick, one thing I noticed while editing this video is that his belt has this little notch on it. See, I've got his waist turned and there's a little hole right there. And only the lightsaber that's not extended has this little peg, and that fits right in the notch in his belt. So as you're posing him up, you can stick the lightsaber on his belt, and again, movie accurate. Very nice. The blade of the lightsaber is made out of a kind of a harder quality plastic, so the nice thing about that, again, is you don't get the bend. The negative thing, as far as kids are concerned, is if you bend this too far, I'm pretty sure this would snap in half. For the hardcore Star Wars people out there, In the first episode of Star Wars, Luke's lightsaber was green, not blue. You know, that might bother some people. I could care less. The holster, as I mentioned, that sits on his leg, you can put this gun in there, and it slots in there pretty nice to where he can go and basically look like his hand's on the trigger to pull that. So that's kind of a neat look. Size comparison next to a 2005 release Stormtrooper. Yeah, he looks a little smaller than the Stormtrooper, but then you remember the phrase, aren't you a little short for a Stormtrooper? So that's probably pretty good in scale. Here he is next to Rex, which is one of the prequel release figures. Cool thing about Rex and this version of the figures is the fact that he was articulated fairly well, but he had nothing in the knees, which was just killer. So at least Luke's got his knee articulation back, a little thicker arms. So overall, I think that the Black Series is a better type of figure in the smaller scale. My only other complaint for this figure is that his left hand is articulated specifically to hold the pistol. So, you know, that's a cool look. It looks like he's about to whip this thing out and start firing, but it leaves this hand looking goofy by itself. And if I try to put the lightsaber into it, again, because it looks like it was specifically molded for the weapon, it just kind of has a weird look to it, to me. I mean, maybe that's just me. So overall, he's a decent figure, especially at the 4-inch scale. He does have a few problems, but overall, if you're looking to add a pretty decent Luke Skywalker to your collection, look no further than the Black Series, figure number 5, A New Hope's Medal Ceremony award-winning Luke Skywalker. Worth the money. Go pick this guy up if you see him in store. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to see more of my reviews, and I review a lot of Transformers and some Doctor Who and more Star Wars coming on the way, you can find all of my reviews at youtube.com/eBEFOREiNet. If you're on Facebook a lot, you can find me at facebook.com/eBEFOREi and tweet me at eBEFOREiNet. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again real soon.